Hi, I'm here today with Jacinia, the New England psychic medium. I'm not even going to try your last name because I will butcher it. But and one of our new co-hosts, Stacy Levine-Lavely. Thank you very much for coming again.
Absolutely.
And we're going to talk. You are a medium, and you have lots of variety of different experiences, and you teach as well. So can you tell us a little bit about what you do?
I'm a published author. I have my own book. It's called Spiritual Development with the New England Psychic Medium. I teach a class. I teach on a couple different groups that have a couple 100,000 people on them. And we teach spiritual development, so kind of integrating the soul to the physical body so that we can use our gifts more actively and we can be aware of the information we're getting from our guides or our spirit team or source. And I have lots of different gifts. Medium is one of them. I'm also psychic, and I also have the ability to see gifts in others. And I do Akashic realm work. The Akashic realm is like soul records.
Okay.
So it shows somebody's past lives and all of their soul structure and sometimes origins. So where they're from, their soul group.
And you've also done some work with paranormal investigators and freeing spirits or getting spirits freed from houses and other. Tell us a little bit about that, because that's fascinating.
When I first began my work, I didn't realize how common it was. But now that I've been doing this for a while, I've realized it's like I call it the soul's virus. So when we do things that lower our vibration, meaning like we eat really terribly, we treat ourselves really poorly, we talk to ourselves really poorly, we limit ourselves based on, our self-hate or our bad self-esteem or our trauma or our pain, we actually attract that in our environment. So we become beacons to these negative energies and sometimes even demonic entities. Now they are different. A negative energy is more just like you're accumulating so much negative energy that eventually it might take on a personality of its own. But people can also have real demonic possessions. They are aggressive, usually violent, and usually have thoughts of suicide or self-destruction because that's how they feed. So they can be much more aggressive. And I have had a lot of clients come to me with, I started realizing that the symptoms were very common, and we started working through those symptoms, like they said, the self-destructive tendencies and surrounding yourself with negative energy or abusive people or bad relationships or friends that take advantage of you. All of those things are self-destructive behaviors that attract these.
Alcoholism, drug. I've always felt that there was, for many people, that it was a evil choice or evil working in the lives of people.
Some people use. Well, I would say I have a wide. I always say I never talk about anything I haven't experienced firsthand, because I don't ever want to be the person to make assumptions based on, my human self. I feel like spirit is so much more connected and so much more evolved that if I'm going to use an example, I use an example that came to me through spirit. I've seen alcoholism and drug abuse in people who don't understand they have gifts and can't manage the energy they're feeling.
Okay.
I've seen drug abuse and addiction in people who have really traumatic blockages based on past lives. So they came in with a lot of suffering. Okay. And I also see it in people who have possessions because it's a self-destructive tendency. Therefore, it weakens our vibration and our boundaries. Therefore, we are able to be inhabited. So we have that internal fight and struggle. So I've seen a little bit of all of it.
And how do you fix, not specific to alcoholism or drug abuse, that's
right.
it, but when somebody calls you or is looking for help?
When you find the root of the problem, you can help them remove the behavior that comes after.
And
so
how do you
that's
do
my
that?
job, is the root of the problem. We talk about, I do past life work. It's part of my gift set. I can go into their soul records. I can look into their past lives. I can look at any situation or traumatic event that would have created those negative belief systems and that behavior. And once those are removed, it's like severing weights. And then the people feel freer. They feel like, wow, I can change this behavior now. I have the ability to rewrite this story and start from scratch. And they're able to connect better to spirit. So they're able to guide themselves into more healing.
And you're able to do this, I mean, how? If you were...
I have clients all over the world. I work with spirit, so I actually don't even have to meet the people. I work with their soul structure, which is fifth dimension, which means it's everywhere, just like God, everywhere. So I can tap into their soul structure and do my work, and I send over a big report. It's huge. It goes over any past life, any behavioral issues. It has links and videos and tips and tools and trainings and homework, and they get that. And it's I've heard I wouldn't do it if I didn't think it was working. But the testimonials I get from people, they make me cry sometimes. It's so beautiful. We're dealing with the root of the issue. Once that's gone, people feel free to recreate themselves completely.
And again, you get locked in the box of what happens when we cross over.
Yep.
And you don't know.
So when we anchor ourselves to the world through our body. Some people call that the pineal gland. We come through the pineal gland as a spirit, and their goal is to integrate the physical body and the soul. So we want to be both. That's why we incarnate on earth, to learn lessons, to be more compassionate, to experience new realities, to grow, to evolve. And we take all that knowledge back to our soul group. But in a lot of situations and instances, people are fearful of crossing over. And they might be fearful because they're simply afraid. I find a lot of children get confused because they don't understand what happened to them, so they linger simply because they're confused. We have a lot of people who stay stuck because of guilt, feeling terrible for something they did to a loved one. And some of them are revengeful or angry, and some of them simply don't know what to expect. Some of them are just too scared to kind of cross over. So the way that I say it is, when you're here, you have your anchor to your physical body. You have your physical connection, and our bodies eat food, so we have fuel. And we also have our spiritual connection because we are both. So we are a conductor of energy. But when we die and we refuse to cross over, we're severing that connection and we're severing our physical connection. So these souls get lost in, I call it in between dimensions. They get lost. It's like the cracks of the couch. They run out of energy, they drain themselves, and the way that they get energy is through fear. So lower level energies, fear, scaring people, that's a quick fix for them. Adrenaline. So a lot of them become mischievous only because it's a survival mechanism.
Oh, interesting.
So when you deal with a lot of these hauntings, they're actually usually very emotional, very sad. They're usually clinging in desperation. And that's why I say that there's no such thing as a good haunting, because it's not fair to the spirit haunting to leave them there in their suffering.
And you're able to help them move
right.
on?
In these cases, it's more like counseling. We counsel them. They have to release their guilt. They have to talk to somebody. They have to share their experiences. They seek forgiveness. So that's what we do in that case. Demonic entities are different completely. They're usually led in by people who are using their gifts inappropriately, or people who are summoning things, not knowing any better. They open portal ways to other realms, and these realms have, these demonic entities that are usually protected and kept out of Earth. But, humans interfering with that process can let them in. So they function completely off of destruction. Wow. Destruction and chaos. And they are more aggressive. They're definitely more powerful, and they can be more difficult to remove. That is something my spirit team deals with. It's more like it's like a trap system. They catch and release.
Because you mentioned spirit team, you don't mean other.
Our spirit guides.
Your
Yes,
spirit
I have
guide.
my spirit team is my spirit guides. I don't have any kind of group or community. I work on my own.
Okay. You also, when you go to a house or something where people have said it's haunted, so you put yourself in a position where you're communicating with whatever spirit is there.
Yep, there are different gift structures too. I think a lot of people don't understand that. So having a local haunting and having a demonic entity are different gift structures. You can remove a local haunting with a conversation. You don't need, any of the tools or gimmicks. You don't really need crystals or sage or any of that. It's a gift structure. So we have the ability to counsel them and help them cross over and find healing. And they literally cross over. They go into the light, as some people explain, and they reunite with their family, and they kind of have the healing that they need or that they require. The demonic entities can be very aggressive, and it's a whole different process. Like I said, it's more like trap and removal, and my spirit team help me with that. People, and I always tell people this too, because it's actually very dangerous. A lot of people will say, well, just go burn sage. That doesn't do anything. It removes negative energy, but that's very light energy. So it can realign a space energetically, but it's not going to remove a demonic entity. If anything, it really ticks them off. So then they come at me like, oh, I did this, I burned some sage, and now I have scratches and I'm having nightmares. And it's like, because it doesn't actually move them. You need the gift structure. A lot of priests have that gift structure. That's what calls them to spirit. And that's why they do the removals and the blessings.
Right, wow.
So how do we get in touch with you? How do people learn some from you, or interact or get some of this counseling or what have you?
All my social media links are actually on my website, newenglandpsychicmedium.com. So I have my Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and my book link all on the same page. So it's really easy to do and get in touch with me.
Thank you very much for coming and sharing this.
Thank you
This
for
has
having
been
me.
fascinating to learn about and maybe give people a whole different perspective on what you do.
Yeah, I hope so. Thank you.
Thank you for coming. Hi, Stacy and I are here today with representatives or leaders of the Greater Boston Paranormal Associates, Dawn DeCristofaro and Sandra Perez, if I got that right, and Suzanne Villegas. Villegas.
That's okay.
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
But welcome, first of all.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Very interested and know very little about what you do. Obviously, you investigate paranormal activities, and you're tied in with the USS Salem, which is located in Quincy, not Salem. But tell us a little bit about what you do.
We investigate and we help people find out if there's entities in their homes. We do a lot of home calls, free of charge, of course. We give public tours on the USS Salem in Quincy for a very small price, and all the money goes to the ship. We try to help them out, keeping the ship docked, right, Don?
Yep, that's right. We don't, it's an expensive proposition to keep the Salem in Quincy.
And that's haunted.
That's very, very
Extremely.
active, yeah.
Wow, that's interesting.
And what Sandra's right, what we charge for the investigations is what the ship charges us per person. We don't make any money there. Everything goes to the ship.
People contact you when they feel that there's something maybe going on in their home? Or?
Yeah, we try to go there and find out if it is a situation that's paranormal, first of all, and then hopefully give them an answer, to settle their minds. If not, find out what's going on. And we just set up our equipment, and we have recorders and audio, and we investigate and see if we can pick up on anything that the owner has presented to us. It's cool.
I'm sorry.
No, I was
Part
just
of
going to
that
say
is-
it's really cool.
Part of that is the historical aspect of it too.
Oh, yeah.
You kind of look at the history of the home
Yeah.
to see if there's anything that happened in the past that might be a link to whatever these people are feeling or seem to think they're feeling. And we, you try to, a big part of what we do is debunking, really.
Yeah.
When somebody says that they're having issues at their home, a lot of what we do is to go into their house and find out that, there's nothing paranormal happening. There's a place where the heat duct is up against a joist, and it makes a creak when you step over here, or these kinds of things. That's what happens a lot of the time, frankly. But Suzanne's right. We have a lot of equipment that we set up, and we try to find fluctuations in the atmosphere and the electromagnetic field and in the temperature.
Hear
Things
voices,
of that
EVPs.
nature. Sure.
Yeah.
So you have a recorder, and you have what other kind of equipment, I guess?
Cameras.
Yep. I mean, depending on the situation and depending on the duration of the investigation, we may have up to 8 static cameras that we set on tripods in various locations around the location. And you know, those things all go through a DVR so that we're looking at all screens at the same time. Somebody stays there at the home base and watches those screens to see if, you know, if they want to dispatch people to a certain location or something of that nature. But normally we use handheld video, handheld digital audio, and we use electromagnetic field detectors are a big part of what we do. And thermometers, temperature changes are another big part of indications of a presence. Not, you know, nothing's a sure sign of a presence, but they're an indication of a potential.
Yeah, and usually if you get 3, you know, signs, so to speak, like say we're trying to get an EVP and we speak to them, you know, is anybody here? And you play your recorder back, and that's when you would hear a voice. So maybe you got a bang maybe a couple times, and the K2 meter went up to, you know, a higher level. Don't you think sometimes if you
Absolutely.
have
Get
at
them
least
simultaneously,
three things, it might be,
Absolutely.
Right.
hey, this might be evidence, you know?
But
so,
never do we base it off of just one thing.
yeah.
Because like Don had mentioned, we're there to debunk. We're there to always think against what the claim is until proven otherwise. And so like Suzanne said, yeah, no, it's nice to have a few items go off at once and really give that solid foundation for some sort of proof of something going on.
Yeah.
Now, speaking about the proof and things like that, how did you guys get into this, and, you know, what kind of proof are you looking for? You know, things like that, like, where did that stem from when you first started out?
I started about 6 years ago, really going out into the field and going to active places. I joined a meetup group online, trying to find some other folks who had similar interests as me. And but ultimately, I really always enjoyed horror films from a young age. I used to wander deep into the woods and try to find something that got my pulse beating fast. You know, it's all about the thrill
Yeah,
of it.
the adrenaline rush.
Right. Yeah.
I have to say that even
That's
now,
awesome.
even now, we find ourselves occasionally saying, "Where did she find that place?"
True, yeah. Definitely.
When you get into the car with Sandra on a Friday or Saturday night, you really, where you're going to end up is a total mystery. And once you get there, you wonder exactly how the heck did she stumble upon this
Yeah.
place to begin with.
Wow, that's amazing.
Oh, yes.
And the two of you, were you two also stumbling around woods and looking for?
Kind of. Yeah.
So it's just an interest.
It's
that
just
you
kind of,
developed.
I feel like I was saying earlier, I feel like the paranormal found me. You know, I feel like one of the houses I've lived in my lifetime was haunted, and I was hearing different things, banging at night 3 times. Every electronic would always go out, fire alarms going off, and I started reading and watching the shows, and before you know it, you're hooked. And then I feel like once you put interest out there, you see more and you recognize more.
You
And
also have to have some sort of historical interest as well, right? I
Yes.
mean, a lot
Yeah, the
of people
history
do
is
enjoy the
huge.
history. I mean, it's
Absolutely, and that's one of the great things.
I like
you know,
that part, the
Yes.
history
The
and
ship,
the bookmark.
you know, that's one of the
bookwork.
great things about the ship is, you know, historically, it's a significant piece of American history.
Yeah.
absolutely.
So even the paranormal stuff aside, it's a great place to just wander around, and it's the only remaining ship of its kind left.
How old is?
It was built in 1949,
Okay.
and it's a heavy cruiser, and it is the last heavy cruiser remaining. You know, kind of, you know, it was only there for 10 years. You know, in 1959, once the Americans and Russians started building submarines, the Salem wasn't built for that kind of war. You know, the Salem was the last big gun ship the Navy ever had. And it really wasn't built for that kind of war, so it really kind of outlived its usefulness.
Okay. But you find a lot of spirit activity on the Salem.
A tremendous amount of spirit activity.
Now, what kind of things do you actually see? Like, what kind of activity have you seen?
Well, you know, I've been with the team with the Greater Boston Paranormal Associates for a year now. It's been a year, a solid year.
Solid year.
And I myself have not had, I had a couple of lights flicker on and off, but I do not have enough experience on the ship itself to be able to have the type of experiences that my teammates have had.
Some of the audio, you know, it's an audio-rich environment.
Oh,
And some of the audio we've recorded is just
Yeah,
mind-boggling. And it's great because it's the best kind of audio because it's contextual. It almost sounds as though the voice is joining in your conversation. We have one audio where it's kind of bringing us back to the conversation. We're standing outside the surgical area of the ship, which is they have a piece of plexiglass bolted in front of the door because they don't like people wandering in and out of there. And we were standing in front of it, three of us, arguing actually about how we were going to get in. Two of them were arguing about who was going to climb over, and I was saying that I could go around and I could get into the back door, and we're debating on this. And at one point, the woman that was with us, Riley Black, her name is, said, well, I just know that when I get in there, I'm going to get up on that surgical table and put my feet in the stirrups, and I'm going to record for a little while and see what happens. And when we listen to the audio later, right after Riley said that, as clear as we're talking right now, you hear a woman's voice say, but how would you get there? As though she was reminding us that we hadn't decided how we were going to get in.
Oh, wow.
Clear as day.
it's
Interesting.
It's as clear as could be. There's no
Yeah,
question
that's
about it. And
amazing.
and that, like I said, that's the best. We're in a birthing area talking about. At one point, the ship did some humanitarian work, and there was some babies born on the ship. And we're in the birthing area talking about where the babies slept. Did they sleep on the racks that the sailors slept in, or what? And soft whisper, but very clearly you hear no cribs.
Somebody calls you because their house, which I have learned from talking to you now, before I ever bought another house, I'd get the whole history and probably have you come in and make sure there's nobody there. But what do you do next? So you identify that there's a for real entity or presence or spirit or more, one or more, in the house. Then what do you do? Because now you've investigated, and then you've got
And you've
other.
decided there's an entity in
Yes.
the home.
So you've
Well,
got other
you know,
folks that you.
Once you, I'm going to say categorize for lack of a better term, but once you get a feel for what you're dealing with, that is to say, if it's an intelligent entity, that is to say something that interacts, you have to come to terms with whether or not it's something that's been there all along, and that's was there before the homeowner, and is of no presents no danger or anything of that nature. And once you lay that out, you'd be surprised how many of the homeowners say, "Well, that's fine. I'm okay with that."
Yeah.
Yeah, most of the time it's.
And that,
Interesting. Or maybe not. Or maybe not. Maybe not. But that's all right. When I understand how some people, that'd be okay.
other people not so much.
In which case, if it was somebody who didn't want that, you'd bring in somebody who was appropriate.
Yeah,
for that kind of-
we have things that we can suggest, sage and things of that nature that have been known to clear an area of something that's not too powerful.
Yeah.
But the truth is, it's kind of a dangerous.
I would
it's kind
think
of a
so. I would
dangerous
think
thing
what
to
you
get
do
into.
has some danger.
You really
Yeah.
need to be careful and
Protect yourself before any
you really need to
investigation.
protect
I'm always
yourself.
wearing the rosary beads and saying a prayer. We pray sometimes before investigations.
Yep.
You've got to be safe about it. It's not for anybody to just be like, "Hey, I want to go investigate." You might pick up something that's not friendly.
you could very easily
Yeah.
bring something home with you when you leave.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay.
There are things like that happen, and like I said, it's like so many other things. If you don't know what you're doing,
Yeah.
it's really best just to stay away.
So if somebody's interested or walking the woods and wants to do this kind of thing, they should contact.
Sure.
Absolutely, and
Sure.
to let everyone know also, if somebody were to call us to go to their home, we don't charge anything. This is all free of charge. This is
That's
really,
true.
we're there
That's
to
correct.
help them figure out if
Put their
they're
minds at ease.
exactly.
Okay. And how do they contact you? Either way, how do they contact you?
Well, our website is www.thegbpa, our initials.
And that'll be scrolling even as we
Okay.
talk. So.
Thegbpa.com. They can email info@thegbpa.com,
Okay, great.
and that'll get to us.
Great.
We're always glad to hear from people, and most of the time people just want to They just want to know that somebody understands what they're
Yeah.
going through and is
Absolutely.
That really
and
is
is on their
true.
side.
Yep.
Most of the time, that's what people really want, and I think we're pretty good at that,
Absolutely.
setting people at ease in that respect. You know.
Well, thank you for coming. This has been very, very interesting.
Thank you for
Thank you
having
very
us.
much.
Appreciate
It's
you
a pleasure.
coming by.
Thank
Thank you.
you.